Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Edge of the Verse, our new podcast, a bi-weekly roundtable where we dig into Star Citizen news, new updates, and system progress, and the things you only notice if you've actually played it. I'm Captain Katarn, joined by Georgi and Lieutenant Chronic. This is our first episode, and we'll shape the future ones based on your feedback, so let me know in the comments what you want to see. I wanted a format that we could talk about Star Citizen news and happenings without chasing the immediate news cycle on YouTube. Board Gamers, Super Mac Brothers, and a whole lot of other people do an absolutely fantastic job covering that, and it's a really hard thing to do. You have to make videos incredibly timely, you have to get the information out there as soon as possible, and I found that I really don't like chasing that type of structure. I prefer making my own video essay style content, and I think a lot of you have responded positively to that, so I really thank you for being here. On this podcast, you're going to get my thoughts unfiltered, raw, and eventually I want to do the show live at a set time so that we can take viewer questions and have a live audience. I think that'll be a lot of fun. On this episode, we're going to be talking about new medical gameplay, Vulkan client tests, Onyx Facilities, and the resource drive. But stay tuned to the end for this week's Smooth Brain special comment from my channel. Let's jump in. Chronic, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, I'm Lieutenant Chronic. Started playing, or got the game anyways, back in 2016, and I'd say that my favorite kind of daily driver ship to use is the Cuddy Red.
All right, very cool, thank you. And Georgi, how about you?
I'm Georgi, Tim's cousin. I've been here since the beginning of his channel, way back in the day, and so far it's been quite an adventure. Let's see where it goes.
Nice. All right, thanks very much, guys. We're going to get into our first section here. The patch 4.3 is live, and that brought with it the Onyx Facilities, which are pretty amazing. Very transformative for Star Citizen. We are starting to see our first real PvE-focused content outside of, industrial things like mining or refining. This is kind of like a PvE shooter. Think Tarkov in space. Not something that I ever thought that I would see from Star Citizen, but it continues the regeneration crisis storyline that ties into Align and Mine and Stormbreaker. And overall, the facilities have this like dark, foreboding atmosphere. It's really quite well done. I'm pretty happy with it. What did you guys think of it so far?
I liked it. I really enjoyed so far everything I've been doing in it.
The atmosphere kind of nails it for you.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of creepy to it. It's kind of dark, but that just it kind of adds to the surprise. Yeah.
How about you, Georgi?
Well, when we ran it, it was a lot. I'll be honest, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun running it. Was that you, me, and might have been Blaster?
Yeah, I think we had a three-man team.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a three-man team. I like it. I mean, it hits that like dark, mysterious sci-fi that I just love. That sort of, like you feel the danger everywhere you walk around it.
Yeah.
I'll be looking forward to when it's completed. And what was your favorite part in the facility so far?
When I was trying to find out the first time, I think I need to say this. I am so into Star Citizen that I'm always trying to get all the information that I can for videos and for my own personal insight. And sometimes I lose a little bit of that mystery because I'll either have like found the information somewhere so I don't get to experience it as well. But trying to find out what was at the center of the engineering wing for me was really like the big reveal moment. We had this pulsing thing, and at the beginning I didn't really understand how the radiation play was working because you had to get closer, at least on the initial PTU, to really start feeling those effects. And once I found out what was at the center, it was kind of like an awe moment. And plus, I didn't know that I could jump off the end of the ladder there, so I was like, "What am I supposed to do?" Like I was thinking about it from a puzzle perspective, that I had to do something. I didn't realize I could just like launch myself all YOLO into an zero-G gravity thing. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out once they change the way that we do EVA. In zero-G, where you have to actually grab onto things and push. I think that'll make that a little bit more challenging and a little bit more fun. The other thing I want to bring up is if you told me that we'd get extraction style gameplay in Star Citizen, I would have said Lindsay Ellis style. Thanks, I hate it. because like to me that didn't seem to be like something that jives with what Star Citizen was. But CIG's proven me wrong. It's actually fun. And one of the things that I find really interesting is that if you go in there solo and your server is like running pretty well, if you don't pay attention, you can die. There'll be bugs sometimes where like I've had NPCs walk up to me and have me dead to rights, but didn't fire. And other times in the first room, if I make a mistake or I'm like not watching all of my angles whenever I'm fighting one NPC, another one will take me down. And I've died in there countless times. So it's kind of a crazy thing. Did that happen to you as well?
Absolutely.
So the thing is that Star Citizen's AI is kind of like in a weird place. When the servers are working well, it's deadly. And we have more improvements coming via the tech preview channel. They were testing this with Evo Cody a couple weeks ago. And there's going to be like even more behaviors for them. Like some of them are going to hunt you. Some of them are going to, prepare choke point ambushes and things like that. If the AI sees you, they're going to investigate the way like a SWAT team would, or SWAT team, excuse me, would. And that's, to me, that's kind of crazy because like if Star Citizen can stabilize that server part of it, all of a sudden it seems like this game is going to be hard mode. You've got PvP against another player. What do they call that? The most dangerous game. And then you also have NPCs that are really good. And there's no difficulty slider in Star Citizen. It'll just be like based on where you are, I suppose, like how well they decide to make that AI team work together. But that would really change the game. Like if it suddenly becomes like clearing something on your own is super difficult. I think that some people will like that, some people won't, but it's definitely different.
Yeah. Well, going back to our Onyx playthrough, when we went through it, I mean, you had both of those instances, even in that one playthrough. Because that first section, I know there was a time when they just kept spawning in like the elevator of the room and I could just sit there and shooting water in a bucket. But then when you had that anti-grav section, you remember that it was kind of like that weird orb thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
How many times did I have to res you guys because you just kept getting shot and picked off like skeet shoot?
Yeah, they shoot from a lot of different angles, and if you're not careful, you can be exposed. And that's the thing, like those elite NPCs, they're not missing very often, which is awesome from like a challenge perspective, but can be really frustrating if you're by yourself.
Absolutely, but yeah, it was fun. Maybe I laughed my ass off a lot at that section. Remember, Tim, doors and corners, dude. Doors and corners, kid. That's where they get you. That's where they get you.
Now, one of the other things I want to talk about is PvP in the facilities. I know that Chronic hasn't experienced this, and I don't think Georgie has either, but some players are camping the facilities and trying to get people, catching them off guard, maybe hanging out near the end of it to see if they took any ASD armor or anything like that. Do you guys have a feeling about that? Do you like seeing that, or do you think CIG should do more to try to prevent this in the future? What's your thoughts?
I mean, PvP is great and everything when you want a PvP, but it kind of sucks when you're forced into it. So I think a split of both, PvE instance and PvP is the same. Choose one or the other, and not be forced into one or the other. Because there was some of those times when they first did it, the release in Pyro, where people were blocking your ability to even go inside, which they addressed and made some changes to where you can't do that anymore. But I just worry if you're not careful, the same thing could happen with this.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Personally, I like the added danger element that it gives me. I go in there, I know that if I'm on my game, I can beat the NPCs. But I'm also looking over my shoulder to see if there's a guy hidden behind a box over there or whatever. And the second that I forget about that and go complacent, I'm probably going to get capped. So I kind of like it because for me, I don't know how you guys are, but like when I was a kid, I was growing up and I was really kind of anxious, even playing a game like Doom where it doesn't actually look like space aliens jumping out at you. That used to like provoke a response in me because I was a little bit, but that same feeling of like anticipation and anxiety, I think that adds a lot to the experience, and I kind of like it. Like, I could see these being instanced in the future. I could see that that's something that CIG is trying to do so that they can give you a directed story-driven experience with rewards and with missions to do and things to see, but also ensure that they can like craft exactly how your experience goes. What do you guys think? Do you think that these would be good candidates for instances?
I do.
I kind of touched back on what you spoke about. I can't say I've had that much experience with people trying to camp me, but we did run into a number of other like real players throughout these, missions come through. And so far I haven't had too much difficulty with them.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think I've ever been killed in the facility by another player. Of course, I wouldn't necessarily know if I was. I don't think I ever ran into anything like that. Now let's talk the expansion.
I can guarantee you I've killed a few of those extra players, and I know you have for sure.
Well, if there were actually, that's right. There was one guy that was shooting at us, and I took him out because he was trying to kill us. But I don't think I've been killed by a player specifically, but I might be wrong. And if you're watching and remember that live stream, call me out on it. But the expansion of the Onyx Facilities in 4.3.1 is pretty interesting. There's going to be new areas, new missions to, I guess, finish, perhaps, the storyline. And the thing with the facilities is I guess they could always be expanded since they're kind of an underground thing. That CIG has, like, essentially infinite land mass to be able to continue to grow and add these facilities. What are you guys looking forward to in 4.3.1? Do you think that there'll be, like, a new boss at the end of the facility, or how's that going to go?
Good question. New boss would be pretty cool. I really like the idea of the whole triggering new missions. Like, even something as simple as when you complete a mission, the guy coming up over the scanner, over the HUD and being like, hey, local scanners picked up a few crates of gold and some quantum fuel cells over here. You want to bring that back with you? We can give you some extra credits. And something that simple would be pretty cool to kick in there.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. So I mean, they've said that they're going to set it up so that we can get missions based on our location. So I guess you could expand that further. Like if you met certain conditions and then you're in a place, maybe something will pop off for you, like a special mission, like, hey, like I need you to do this for me right now, or hey, this is urgent. We just found, I don't know, the reactor's critical or something, and you need to stabilize it, or you're gonna die. Something like that. That'd be a little bit different. I find that the storytelling and gameplay potential of that's going to be huge.
No, I think that's definitely needed, because my only complaint with the Onyx facility right now is it feels more like an interactive funhouse. It's very linear as far as the progression. I know there's some story elements in there, but they're not entirely fleshed out. So it kind of just feels like it's still fun, but you're still kind of just going through this linear path.
Right.
So
we'll figure out what's at the end of the rainbow. Right.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm excited for. Once they get that all sorted, it'll be worth it going to it multiple times just to see how it's different.
I see.
Each playthrough.
Good points. One thing that I was thinking is there's a Vandal ship in there, and there's a cage with a lot of blood. Now that could just be CIG's visual storytelling, making us use our imagination as to what happened. But do you think maybe the final boss, if it's not the mad scientist himself, which kind of seems like, honestly, unless he's like wearing some kind of like exosuit or has turned himself into like a half like Vandal creature or something, you know what I mean? It seems kind of anticlimactic unless he's like Dr. Robotnik. Do you think maybe we're gonna see a Vandal at the end as like the major thing? Like we have an Apex worm that we fight in Stormbreaker. Maybe for the Onyx facility, it's like a fairly high-ranking Vandal to kind of like set the stakes for how strong they are in Squadron 42 and really make you think, wow, like these guys are powerful.
Have we seen a Vandal anywhere else in the game so far? I can't remember, other than the ships itself, because you have those instances when you're flying.
Yeah, I think that there's a helmet maybe that kind of looks like it. I could be wrong. I don't have every single item in Star Citizen. I'm going to say that we haven't in the PU, but I'm sure that somebody in the comments will definitely correct me if that's the case. But yeah, I think it would be interesting. They've gone through so many iterations in terms of like what they were going to be whenever they first did the motion capture and then the advancement of Squadron 42 and the new look, but it was always about how they were going to fight you without armor, and like the more armor, a Vandal had on was like the lore thing that the younger he was and the more experienced he was. And if you saw a Vandal come at you that had like basically no armor on at all, you were really kind of screwed.
Yeah. Well, I think it's definitely needed. They have to have something at the end of that. Like you said, the end of that rainbow. So a boss of any kind is welcome no matter how it turns out, really.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. Like we have the PvE raid, right, with the worm. And that was fun, and I've done that now twice, and I had a blast both times. And to see the PvE version of essentially what is like an instance dungeon is pretty cool as well. All right, let's switch gears and talk about the resource drive. Yeah, so you know, I know that you guys experienced it whenever the resource drive came out, and a lot of the freight elevators had issues. I did a whole video about it, how I thought that, you know, it was clearly a stress test, and they'd take that information and be able to make better systems and find all the edge cases. There's nothing like working with live data, and we saw that there was a bigger turnout for the resource drive than there's ever been in Star Citizen's history. Clearly people were into it. 4.3 continued it. It's better now. The elevators mostly work. Two tips. One, if you're having a problem, if you go up to the elevator and the little green bars are spinning, hit Alt F4 in your game, log back in very quickly, and that'll fix it in most cases. And the other one is that if you haven't finished the resource drive yet, I found that the 127k missions under the different manufacturers are the fastest way to do it. If you do it, you're going to spawn either an M2 or a Caterpillar there. Rather than offloading them onto your ship and then taking it back to the facility, you can just get in and fly that ship back to like Port Olisar or wherever you're going. Well, not Port Olisar, Seraphim Station. Just as soon as I think of Star Citizen Station, I think Port Olisar. It's burned into my brain. You can tell I'm an OG. But yeah, so like if you take that back, you're going to get like anywhere from 400 to 500 SCU of cargo to offload and immediately put in there. If you haven't finished the resource drive because you were frustrated or whatever, that's the way to do it. The mission is kind of bugged in that I think that the NPCs that are supposed to spawn in to attack that ship and attack you while you're there aren't happening. So I will take that as a win after everything that's happened. Sometimes like it's like Monopoly, right? Bug in your favor, collect 500 SCU. I'm fine with it. But let's look at the resource drive. How are you guys on your tiers? Where are you right now?
Oh, I'm just about to tier 4 for Crusader, which is honestly the only one I really planned on doing.
Nice. We'll have to do a couple of those missions for you to finish you off. I think if we did like 3 missions, you'd be done.
Raising.
Jorgie, did you? Yep. Giggity. Jorgie, did you get what you wanted in the resource drive, or?
I think we know the answer to that, Tim.
And what is it?
Haven't participated at all.
And why is that?
I don't know. I mean, cargo running just doesn't really necessarily appeal to me that much.
I totally get it.
I mean, we've done it in the past before, and I kind of just, not that I'm complaining too much, but I kind of just hang around and, you know, just what I'm like one of those road workers. I like to watch you guys work while I sit there with the sign that says, you know, slow, stop, whatever.
I gotcha. All right, so I'm really hoping that like at the end of the day, all of the data that they've generated from this helps them set up those elevators. Those elevators are absolutely key to the game. We see it in Stormbreaker. When you destroy the worm, you have to have a working elevator to get your loot out. You know, you're sending it down, you're picking it up at the facility where you landed with your ship. Hugely important. All of the base building is going to be tied to freight elevators in terms of like inventory storage. That's going to be huge. So we really need to get that in a good space, and if we do, then it kind of unlocks the rest of the game. All right, now let's get into the Star Citizen news. Today we're going to talk about the Vulkan tech preview, which is actually happening at the time of recording. The new tech preview is available to all backers for testing the Vulkan integration and improvements from Squadron 42. CIG's director of Pixels, Ali Brown, was on Spectrum a few months ago talking about porting over Squadron 42's graphical improvement to the PU, and this is the first of many tests in the process. Vulkan is a huge performance uplift for Star Citizen, moving the rendering pipeline off the main thread to the GPU and allows Star Citizen to take advantage of modern GPUs and tools available to them the way newer titles do. In practicality, it's going to increase performance, especially on the CPU-bound systems. Additionally, the Vulkan client will bring Squadron 42 related enhancements, including ray tracing, global illumination, and tons of other tech to the verse. The tech preview is the first step towards testing and integrating these features, and I expect it'll probably be months until this is permanently added. I did want to quickly call out a couple of parts of the patch notes that I think are particularly important. Vulkan is now enabled as the default option on the tech preview, offering that better performance, but if users need to, they can switch back to DirectX 11 so they can compare and contrast the two between their machines and generate more data for CIG. The update also includes support for DAA, DLSS, FSR for anti-aliasing, reducing video memory usage, and improving clarity in the graphic settings. That's huge. A lot of the modern uplift that we've seen both in graphics cards and game fidelity has come from technologies like DLSS and FSR, which are basically frame generations that have taken games like Cyberpunk from, like even the best systems were getting like 60 FPS to hundreds of SPS. So seeing those same improvements brought to Star Citizen is going to be a huge deal. They're also adding pop-up alerts that are going to alert users if estimated video memory usage exceeds the recommended levels. So essentially, let's say that you're configuring it in the settings. Right now, you don't get any type of feedback, but let's say you put the clouds on maximum photo rendering and your card can't handle it, it's going to at least tell you that you're going to have a problem. So that will hopefully help a lot of people out. They did have a test with Evocati a couple weeks ago, and from that test, various bugs have been fixed, including video memory estimation, GPU crashes, sun shadow flickering, and rendering inventory problems that were seen in that test. So this is a good first step. And as soon as this podcast recording is over, I'm going to be jumping into the tech preview channel myself. So in the next edition of our podcast, I'll give you an update on what I saw and kind of my feedback from that test. It'll be kind of fun. And let's get into the big one, the medical respawning changes. Wow, people have some pretty serious opinions on this, and it's understandable. CIG just showed off their plans for the new medical gameplay, completely changing how injuries and respawning works. Basically, they're doubling down on consequence, and a lot of my recent videos have talked about how there is a lack of consequence in the verse, so for me, ripping the band-aid off is a good thing, but we'll get into the roundtable discussion shortly and see what everybody thinks. Let me just summarize real quickly in case you haven't heard what the medical changes are. And there's a new resource coming to the verse called Metagel. It's a new item essential for respawning and treating injuries in med beds. Each container of Metagel is going to contain 200 units of Metagel and cost 100,000 Alpha UEC. You will need to use 100 units of Metagel in order to spawn in a bed, be it Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. So that essentially fixed the cost to the player at 50k per respawn. Now this is for ships only. The hospitals, I believe, will still be run by NPCs who will be stocking the med beds and whatnot, so you'll just have to pay a tax, it looks like, to the UEE in order to use the facility whenever you respawn. Think of it as like a convenience tax to respawn in the field. And there's going to be some other changes probably down the pipeline that makes it so that you might want to respawn in the field with a little bit of urgency. I don't believe that any of those are coming in yet, but we'll talk about it. Medbed tiers and functionality is changing as well. Tier 3 medbeds hold 2 medgel containers with a respawn range that's fairly limited. So we're thinking maybe, like a planetary area, or potentially even, limited to maybe like all of the surrounding area of Crusader. Tier 2 medbeds are going to hold 4 metagel containers and have a much bigger respawn range, so possibly maybe half the system or more. It's interesting to see how this is going to play out. And Tier 1 medbeds are going to hold 6 metagel containers with a respawn range of basically an entire star system. And the idea is that if you're outside of that range, you can't use that facility. Alright, and they've also talked about future state gameplay where you'll be able to choose up to 5 respawn locations, like a hospital, a vehicle, a player base, a temporary location, and a medical rescue beacon. So those are the options that we'll get in the future. Now this is still a ways off, so that's kind of a distant thing, but they're showing us what they're working towards. The coolest thing about the update today is they kind of clarified how the healing of injuries is going to work. So a Tier 3 injury is going to take 5 metagel, but let's say you have 3 Tier 3 injuries, it's not going to cost you 15, it's only going to cost you 5. I think that that's pretty cool. Tier 2 is going to be 10 metagel. Tier 1 will be 20 metagel, and so on. It's going to be a huge difference to the verse. I mean, right now we kind of YOLO and do whatever, backspace whenever we get into a problem. But like I said, this is kind of controversial, and I know that you guys have opinions. So Chronic, let's go with you first. What do you think about these changes?
Oh, I mean, it's nice to expand on medical. It's definitely been needed for a while. But I'm not too sure about how much is actually stuck in right now versus what's been taken away. I'm really curious as to the default spawning without using players.
And can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by default spawning?
Oh, like if I don't want to be close to the location and I just want to do what we usually do now in a lot of situations, which is respawn back at my home location. What's that going to run someone?
I'm not sure about the credit cost on that. I think that's a good question. I'm sure it's probably not going to be less than the in the field respawning. One of the things about this that might be overlooked is this is supposed to be a major credit sink on the game, and personally I'm all for it. I think that so many MMOs have had their economies run incredibly poorly that within months people have hundreds of millions of credits and nothing to spend it on, and then all of a sudden, like new players are kind of priced out of the game. So having big credit sinks on things that players are going to use on a regular basis is healthy essentially for the game economy that generates essentially infinite credits just by completing the game.
I feel like the default would be if you don't have the required supplies, you would just go back to whatever your home port would be, wouldn't it? I feel like that's the logical situation.
Yeah, there has to be something to that, because it's not like Altered Carbon. They're not going to put you, back into the black and be under for like 250 years until maybe you get re-sleeved in a body, which is an awesome series, by the way. I do recommend that you check it out. It's not nearly as cool as the books, but there's only so much you can do there.
I mean, well, they could do that. Like maybe like have like how they have with the, I doubt it, but like they have with the prison system. You get like a small time penalty.
Yeah, but like in the prison system, you're actually right, but you're actually still in control of a character. I think that one of the things that they want to avoid at all costs is taking away any type of action that you can do in a game, because that's when people log out, and that's not their goal. Like, the more you play Star Citizen, the more you're gonna be into Star Citizen, the more that you're gonna spend money on Star Citizen, the more that you're going to bring your friends to Star Citizen. It's the same for every game. Star Citizen just gets a bad rep because they raise a ton of money because we really like it as a collective group. But I can see that. Personally, I think it's an interesting change. I'm willing to see how it plays out. I think that one of the things that I've learned as I've gotten older is that my first impression for things, whenever it's like super negative, has generally been wrong. And I find that I don't know everything. So sometimes good design exists out there and I have to see it, but obviously that's not always the case. And I'm sure if the changes aren't universally loved, that CIG will make a course correction there. But yeah, huge changes. Now, I know, Chronic, you had a concern about the types of ships that had a Tier 1 medbed.
Yeah. I could be wrong here, but it looks like for the most part, there's only a couple of ships, one being the new Apollo that has a Tier 1 medbed in it.
Yeah, and also the Idris, I believe, is the other one I can think of. I think that also plays into the medical gameplay, right? What they want is they want a medic to come out and rescue you, but they can't save you. They can stabilize you and take you to a hospital where you can get the treatment that you need. That's all part of the gameplay design. It's interwoven so that like you're actually kind of playing the role of a ambulance, service in a way. But if you want to play doctor in the verse, then you get an Apollo, either, through cash or in-game with credits, and then that's your role, that you can be that mobile spawning facility where you can offer these services and kind of choose your clients in a way. I think that's pretty cool. I think that opens up like a whole new dimension to Star Citizen. Like I've said, the lack of consequences that we've had for such a long time has made people just YOLO this, and it's so far away from what the goal is. Now, I also understand the counter argument, right? That there's so many bugs in the verse that I shouldn't be penalized for that. But let's be honest. I mean, like, I still play Star Citizen casually, even though I play a lot, because I do not chase credits. I don't run missions just to make money. I don't care about any of that. I just like the experience, and I still have, even after buying a bunch of ships, I still have 4 million credits. So if it costs me 50K to respawn, well, maybe I'll be a little bit more careful in what I do, but I don't see it, being a huge net negative. You guys agree with that?
Yeah, I don't see it being a huge net negative, but I just do see little possible hiccups. But, like you said, they'll put it in, they'll run it for a while, and they'll iron out the kinks, and they'll change what needs to be changed, and hopefully listen to feedback, and, it'll move right along just like everything else has.
Looking forward to it. Jorgie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I figured that's kind of how the gameplay would be. I would imagine you'd end up with probably more like space doctors than anything. I mean, as you were describing it, that was my thoughts. Like, well, you buy a ship with a tier 1, you just go around and save everyone, really.
Right.
I mean, that would be a full-time profession in itself.
Yeah, there are people that played the role of the doctors in like Red Dead Redemption, and there were doctors in Star Wars Galaxies, although they really only buffed people. But I mean, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. You follow that because it's the type of gameplay that you like. And just like those other professions, perhaps, since players are going to be able to set their own respawn costs, there's kind of like a get rich scheme there too, by providing a needed service that people like and making money. I think that's pretty cool. I don't think that the bottom line is going to be 50K. It's probably, I would say that there'll probably be some people that will charge a bare minimum to respawn at their ship because maybe they want to get their reputation up or something when the reputation system comes online for medical. But I would say that we probably, and it's fair, probably are going to see like 75K respawns, like 25K to the player providing the service, and the rest to their costs on the metagel.
Yeah, that's one thing I did read about that I was interested in is like you mentioned, rep. Something about being able to see the last couple of revives that a medic has done or something along those lines. And I hope they really expand on that. And so, that way when you call 911, you know who's coming, and you're going to get help and not some pirate in an ambulance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. That's like the old beacon system that we had that didn't work with server meshing that they're refactoring. Was basically like, hey, I'm vulnerable, come take all my stuff beacon, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, they want to avoid that, but I can totally see it. It's kind of like, I guess I had talked about this in one of my videos. I was pissed that they changed the size of Stanton, or not Stanton, Pyro, but specifically like the jump zones. But what they did is they just increased everybody's jump range, and they took refueling right out. And I think part of that is that without the reputation system, if you need a player to refuel you, you're just basically saying, I have no way to fight you back. Here I am. Come and get my ship and everything else. And maybe the game isn't ready for that. But it still annoys me because I think that even if they can't be refueled, if a player gets like stuck in deep space, there should be a consequence for that. Especially right now when you can just backspace and move on. We don't even have the medical gameplay. But yeah, I totally can see your concern there, and I am glad that they're addressing it.
I mean, that was really the biggest concern, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. You want the medical gameplay to be people that are dedicated to it and good at it. And that provides a whole nother area of gameplay that has nothing to do with combat. And a lot of people say that Star Citizen is really Combat Citizen. And in a way that can be true, like even the new Onyx facilities are combat based. But it'll be really cool to have additional options to play the game.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas what that might look like, though? Because as of right now, there's like really nothing in the game right now that you can kind of implement that system, correct?
And what do you mean specifically?
I mean, you can look up friends and contact someone, but I mean, unless you know that person is going to be the doctor that will help you, you're just calling it random and hoping for the best, I would imagine.
Yeah, so the thing is that they've talked about the reputation system a lot over the years, and it's kind of changed. So I'm not going to speculate on what it looks like because I'm not even sure if the information that I'm thinking of is current anymore. But it's a good question, and I think that once we have more to talk about on that, we can make that a future podcast. Okay, guys, we're going to get into our next section. This is rapid fire questions. Now, to preface this for both the audience and for our guests, Short answers only, no dodging. I want 1 to 2 sentence answers on everything. Question number 1. What's the most overrated ship in Star Citizen right now?
Polaris?
You're just pissed off a lot of people. All right, Chronic, your turn.
I'd have to go with the Idris, just because it's been talked up for so long, and now that it's here, you can't really even do anything with it other than fly it around.
I would also have to go with the Idris. Every time I see one, I cringe. All right. Question number 2. Which single bug has made you rage the hardest?
Oh man, it would definitely have to be the 30K, which I'm glad is finally gone, really.
Nice. Jorgy?
I'm glad this doesn't happen very often anymore, but anytime I get yeeted right out of the elevator, that's always rage for me.
Nice. And for me, it was falling through the planet. Whenever we were first testing 4.0 and PTU, I fell through almost every outpost there was, because there were a lot of floors that didn't have collision. So you walked into a building and it was like, gravity pulled you into the black hole at the center of the planet. A lot of fun. All right. Question 3. Best ship for new players in 2025.
Well, I still have the Mustang, so it's good enough for me right now. I'll say that much.
All right, Chronic.
Well, if you are able to not have to go with the cheapest package and you can spend a little bit of money, I would say a Cuddy Black.
Okay, so that's like it's like buying a collector's edition of Star Citizen if you're going to spend $100 on the game just to get started. I get that. I can see it. For me, I think it's the Intrepid, no doubt. I mean, it's got the best interior. It's got a SCU. It's my favorite of the starter ships. What's the funniest death you've had in Star Citizen?
Funniest death I would have to say wasn't actually a death. It was one time when we were out mining in a mole, and somebody, I don't remember exactly who, fired off their laser at 100% instead of 0%, and the rock blew up in our face.
I don't remember exactly who either in our...
We proceeded to start spinning so quick that the screen turned red and then it turned black. And I remember you hollering, "What do we do? What do we do?" And all I said was, "Hold Shift and X, hold Shift and X." And eventually we stabilized and the screen slowly came back and we were actually able to limp that busted ass mole back to a station without dying.
We'll just pretend it wasn't me that did that. All right, and then my funniest death that I had in Star Citizen was the first time I ever fell out of a ship at Quantum. This was back whenever I had a Starfarer. It was basically like a level in space, right? An FPS level in space. At the time, there was nothing else like it in the game. And I got out of the seat in Quantum Drive, and the next thing I know, I'm like in space watching my ship just fly away from me. And it was the first time it ever happened. It's one of those like, oh wow, oh shit moments. It's happened to me many, many times since, so I'm desensitized to it. But, your first time for everything is a special experience.
Well, kind of like on Chronic on this one, I didn't die per se, and I want to apologize. I think it was Rain who did the Onyx facility with us.
Yeah.
But you two got stuck in the elevator shaft and probably spent like 30 minutes at least just trying to build a ladder to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I was just watching you doing it, and I was just sitting there enjoying it, not helping at all. It felt great.
Well, thanks, man. All right, question 5. If you could steal one feature from another sci-fi game and drop it into Star Citizen, what would it be?
Oh, I've said it once before and I'll say it again. The resources, the way they're generated from Star Wars Galaxies, crafting.
Okay. You might get your wish. It looks like they're doing something pretty similar. Jorgy, do you have one?
I want to see, in general, more like androids, more like cyborgs, maybe even a whole race of people, like, species like that.
Well, that's interesting. Okay. I don't know if they have any plans for that, but that'd be fun, kind of cool. I would like the temporary enemy flag from Star Citizen, or Star Wars Galaxies. I'd like to see that make its way into Star Citizen for like certain areas where you can decide that you want to be a combatant. I know that that's probably going to ruffle a lot of PvPers the wrong way, but I do think that there's a problem with PvE versus PvE servers, and no other game has been able to get that right, so we'll see. Favorite system, Stanton or Pyro?
I myself would have to say Stanton. It's nice and comfortable and familiar like the backyard, and that's where my home location is on Crusader, so gotta show some love there.
Very nice, Jorgie.
Iro, I just love the atmosphere, that dirty, grimy space. That's what I grew up on.
It doesn't make you sick?
Absolutely not, dude. I love Star Wars. I love aliens. I love that atmosphere.
Okay, I get that. So you like the sci-fi aesthetic.
Yeah.
I have to go with Stanton and like Chronic. Usually Orizen is my home. This time for this patch, I chose New Babbage to be a little different because I haven't been there in a long time. But I'll be going back to Orizen pretty soon. Question 7. Future mechanic. Which future mechanic are you personally hyped for the most?
I'm really looking forward to base building and what that's going to bring to the game.
Very cool. Jorgie?
Engineering.
Yeah.
Running around preparing the ship. Because right now I just travel like on a bus. So at least give me something to do.
Yeah. There's the joke that like whenever we do something epic, we're like, oh yeah, and Chronic did this and Jorgie, he was there. You know, so at least this time he'll have something to do. For me, I think that you cannot separate base building, crafting, and player economy because they all are part of the same fabric. You need all of them because base building is going to be the resource extracting and crafting is going to be crafting the bases, you know, and then player economy is the trading of resources and items and things like that. They all go hand in hand. And for me, that is like when Star Citizen turns from like a game right now that I play for fun in the moment to all of a sudden I have a long-term reason to play. Question number 8. Which Star Wars ship should be in Star Citizen?
I have 2, and this is just specific examples. If I could play a Star Wars ship in SC, it would be either an X-Wing or a Star Destroyer.
Okay.
Going on, both sides of that large spectrum.
So for you, the Scorpius is not close enough to an X-Wing. You want the actual T-65B.
Well, I mean, that's the question.
Yeah.
A Star Wars ship, not a Star Wars adjacent ship.
All right, gotcha. Chronic, how about you?
Well, as somebody that played Star Wars Galaxies and had access in open 3D space, nothing like Star Citizen, of course, with a lot of the ships from Star Wars, I would want to see anything Carillion Corvette class and above because that's the kind of stuff we didn't have access to.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I can see that. Personally, I have one on my desk. It's about 38 inches long. I 3D printed it. I want Star Destroyers. They are my single favorite ship in sci-fi ever. They just represent power and control, and I love them. So that's me. All right, question 9. Is Star Citizen finally a game in 2025? Yes or no? One-word answers.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I wish I could expand on it, but between yes or no, I would say yes.
You sounded unsure when you said that. And of course, I would say yes. Hell, I made multiple videos on this. Question number 10. If Chris Roberts was watching right now, what's the one thing that you'd tell him?
I would have to say let's cut back on some of the marketing and push it towards production.
Okay. So you think that they spend too much money on marketing. Got it. Jorgie, what would you say?
Just say, I love you, Chris Roberts. Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. All right. You'd be afraid of his celebrity status in person. I would say, hey, Chris, when Squadron 42 coming out and see what he says to me in person. It could be an interesting conversation. Now it's time for this week's Smooth Brain special comment. This week's award goes to Mike Ehrentrott, 2607. This one's on my Star Citizen's Pyro System Has a Problem video. Commenters taking issue with my call to action at the end of the video, where I give a very standard YouTube sign-off referencing subscribing and Patreon. Literally the same thing you've heard on every video you've ever watched since the beginning of time. And the comment reads, being that desperate at the end makes it hard to give it a like. Also, the video is only one specific thought stretched out to 8 minutes. And for this, you ask for clicks and support? For what exactly? Fantastic insights there, Mike. Hard to take guys seriously when all I can hear is Mike Ehrmantratt's voice in my head. Just imagine it. Walter. Except instead of running a criminal empire, he's crying in a YouTube comment section about Star Citizen. All right, that's it for this episode of Edge of the Verse. Big thanks to Jorgie and Chronic for joining. If you enjoyed it, hit like, give us some feedback and questions in the comments, and we will see you in the verse. Thank you so much for watching.